to the Off-Grid family. Today I'm getting on with my 3D printer. It's a project that I've been wanting to get up and running properly for such a long time, but as with everything, life tends to get in the way and projects tend to get in the way. The first thing I need to do is change the heat bed. When I bought it, there was a problem with the right hand side of the heat bed. It wasn't heating up properly, so that, you know, the stuff wasn't sticking properly. So it worked as long as I kept everything over to the left hand side. But I've got a multitude of projects I'm working on at the moment that could do with certain bits and pieces being 3D printed. And then I want to do a whole series on how to use different software to make your 3D prints. Some things are just dead simple, other things get a bit more complicated. But, you know, I need to learn a lot of it myself, so it'd be nice if you guys could follow along and learn as well. And also, if you've got any hints and tips, leave them in the comments. I always appreciate any creative criticism and help I get from the comment section. I actually find that the comment section of YouTube can be the most amazing resource. There's a lot of people who give negative and no help sort of comments, but there is a lot of people who've got a lot to say about a certain thing and know a hell of a lot, and for that reason, when they leave a comment, it tends to be as helpful as the entire video, if not more helpful, and I learn a lot from it. So guys, this is something that I am starting out quite new on, so if you've got hints and tips and tricks and so on, please, you know, leave me a comment or point me in the way to your videos, etc. I'd like to, you know, I'd like to learn if I can. Also, just quickly, we are in need of Patreons. We need people to help fund different projects. I've got huge projects coming up and no funding whatsoever, so they just take forever to be able to get the sort of bits and pieces and parts and so on that I need. So if any of you can spare anything a month, you know, that would be awesome, and I'd really appreciate it. There are perks that go along with it, like 1 week early access. There are other bits and bobs, and I've got a website that I'm working on, and there's going to be a members area which any Patreons will be put directly into the members area straight away anyway. First off, I got to spray down the 3D printer with just some compressed air just to get rid of all the dust. As I say, it's just been sat there for a while not being used. And then I've got to tighten everything back up. Then I'm going to change the heat bed and hopefully get on with some 3D printing. Let's get on with it, shall we? First things first, let's spray it down with some compressed air. Now it's a case of tightening up all the screws because it's been moved around a lot, and I don't, you know, it will have loosened up in some places. As you see, everything is just slightly loose now, but it has been moved a lot. Next thing we want to do is unplug the heat bed. So let's have a look. That one should be the heat bed there, is it? Yeah. Okay, so that's those two sorted. So on my 3D printer, the heat bed actual heating probes go there, the wires to the elements, and then down here is where the actual temperature sensor goes. And now it's a case of trying to get it out through these things. First thing I'm going to do is unscrew the heat bed. If you do have to move your heat bed manually, do it slowly. You don't want to damage any of the motors or the circuitry. A motor that's being pushed by you is actually making electricity. It's, you know, how generators work, and you don't want to send a shock through the system or anything. Don't know if it would happen, but it's, you know, it's a safety precaution anyway. So always push slowly. Make sure you collect the springs too. Now, this is where the fun begins. Oh. Okay, so that is actually only the heat bed on this one. And this one unfortunately has the sensor and everything, which is a shame. Okay, one step closer. Why did I have to try and put them away so neatly, eh? Right, I'm just going to cut it. It is broken, but I can resolder it for another project. Now hopefully, well that didn't work, did it? Oops. Okay, well we'll leave that like that then. Okay, so we've got the heat bed off. I'm going to untangle this from it. Okay, now that can go to one side, and I will be using that for a project. It doesn't need both sides heating up, so I think we can get away with doing something quite cool with that. Okay, let's untangle this. Go real careful with these because they are, it depends which ones you buy, but these are not very well soldered on there. I'm a bit disappointed with the quality of that, but I can fix it if needs be. Now I've decided to put this one like this now because I don't want to have to fiddle with it once it's on the actual machine, the printer. And this stuff literally you just wrap round it and it will, you know, cover the wires. Try not to scratch the heat bed too much like I'm doing. Okay, now as you'll see, Heatbed has two sides. This is the side that faces up, and I always have the wires out the back, so the front of the machine is here. Just like that. Okay, next thing is screwing it on, but what I tend to do is screw in, then the spring, and then find the hole. Done. And the next one, and so on all the way around. Okay, so they're all in, and now it's a case of just screwing them in. Okay, now to wire it back up, and it's just exactly the opposite of what we just did. Now at this point I like to just pull the heat bed slowly forward and make sure that the wires don't get too taut. That's fine. And it's also not bending at the place where the solder is either, which is perfect. The ends for the actual heating element should be stripped or partially stripped, and then you just pull the end off. Twist it together. Same with the other one. Just twisting it just allows you to get it into the actual terminal a little bit easier. And now we'll come down the front of all the wires. Make sure you pushed it in as far as possible and then tighten up. Holding it in place while you're tightening, because sometimes when you're turning the screw of the terminal it can actually push the wire out. And the next one. Okay, this one needs to be unscrewed a little bit more. Sometimes the the blocks don't move down when you unscrew them, so sometimes it's if you put your screwdriver in, it'll just push them free. Not too hard, you shouldn't need to put any force behind it, just putting the screwdriver in just moves them apart. Hold it there and screw in. Okay, that's that done. Obviously I need to move all the wires, they're all intersecting with everything else, but we'll do that in a sec. And then now we need to put the heat bed sensors in. I assume it's a temperature sensor, just to make sure when it gets up to the right temperature. Okay, there we go, and that's pretty much it. Obviously I'm now going to have to move some wires around. If you've got these plastic clips, I advise using them. They just come in so handy to just keep everything out the way. Now I don't screw them super duper tight, they just need to be tight enough to just hold the wires there, and it means if they're not quite in the right place you can always wiggle them into the right place and they're still held together safely. Okay, so the first thing we need to do now is calibrate it, get it all back to how it should be. Obviously it's been a while, it's been moved around and everything, and I've just put a new heat bed on, so I need to now measure the distance underneath the heat bed all the way around and make sure it's dead flat. So that's where I'm going to start. Now usually what I'd do is I'd measure from that the black actual base to the bed and make sure it's the same all the way around. But I'm going to try out a quick way to do it. And if it works, then I'm sure someone will have made a tool for this which I'll be able to print out. Basically all I'm going to do, I've got a flux pen here, but it doesn't matter what it is, and it's got a certain height from here to here, and I'm just going to tighten all of the sides up to this. Let's see if that works at all. Back, exactly the same thing. Okay, now I'm going to go around and just measure them all to see if that worked, because if so then there surely is someone who's already thought of that and has printed out a device, you know, of the exact right thickness. So let's have a look. Can't find any of my small rulers anywhere, so I'm going to do it like this. Six. 1.6. 1.6. And 1.6. So that actually worked really well. It took me half the time it would have taken had I measured. So I'm going to have a look online later and find one that someone else has made or that I'll have to make myself. So I'm sure there's just something you can plonk in there, screw it down till it's tight and do it all the way around, and your bed's sorted.